I first learned of A Plague Tale: Innocence a few days before it was released. Not unlike the swarms of rats which burst through the ground frequently during the game, it kinda came out of nowhere. I found the concept very interesting. You play as a teenage girl who uses stealth and puzzle solving to protect her brother on a narrative-heavy quest through a countryside in 14th century France. Calling it a historical fiction game would be a false statement though. The genre slides quickly into fantasy territory, and as you get further into the game, that genre sliding accelerates faster than a Tesla being driven by a meth head. While I don't want to give away the story beats, it's clear that the gritty and lived-in setting is meant to set the stage for a dark fantasy story rather than create a realistic adventure through the Black Plague era. Where the game thankfully does hold believability is in the complexity of the core relationship. The axis upon which most of the game revolves is the relationship between the player character Amicia and her young, naive brother Hugo. Amicia and Hugo are not close at the game's outset. They're almost strangers. Hugo is being kept in a quarantine of sorts, as his mysterious affliction is being investigated by who you assume is their doctor of a mother. It's not giving too much away to reveal that she is not a doctor at all, but an alchemist, and the teachings of her and her colleagues play a large part in the gameplay which Amicia must utilize in order to protect this young boy, who at first she hardly likes, even if she knows that she's supposed to love him. The distance in their relationship makes the moments where Hugo shows affection towards Amicia all the more impactful, as we the players grow attached to this boy for the same reasons Amicia does. It's hard to not smile a bit when this innocent little boy picks a flower and puts it in his sister's hair during the quest, as it's such a stark contrast to the brutality and horror that you're experiencing elsewhere in the game.
Flowers, they're so pretty. They're carnations. We had some in my herbarium. But those ones are prettier.
Hugo, we have to keep moving.
Wait, come here.
What?
It will protect you, and it's pretty too.
Oh, all right.
Now we can go.
Thank you, Hugo.
You're welcome.
And when I say horror, I mean horror. If you're not being pursued by the religious extremist Inquisition or avoiding the torrents of rats which pour out of all the game's crevices like some kind of vermin tide, there is no shortage of tense moments or scary sights. Some of the imagery in this game is downright brutal, to the point that I'm surprised they stopped short of doing the Tomb Raider 2013 "Why God, why?" death animations. Death does come quickly and often, as one of the things that drew me to this game was the idea of playing as a teen girl who is resourceful but wasn't wrecking gigantic armored knights by the dozens with a sword. You have a power level which is believable for a 15-year-old girl who is handy with a sling to have. You can pick off enemies with no head protection rather easily if you catch them unaware, but aside from one boss battle early on which involves a hefty amount of dodging and some quick thinking, you're rarely going toe-to-toe with a full-grown adult man. This relative powerlessness does wonders for the immersion though. You feel like you really need to be clever, if not for your sake, then for Hugo's. Being clever is not beyond reach either, as there is often only one critical path with no more than a few possible options to tackle any given challenge in the game. While this does result in less depth than you'd want from a stealth game like Dishonored or Splinter Cell, this game is more accurately described as a stealth action equivalent to 2017's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. For those unfamiliar with that game, Hellblade was a very linear action puzzle game which had straightforward and simple combat and some semi-challenging puzzles, but was primarily a character-driven narrative experience. You could comfortably knock it out in a weekend, it cost less than a full-price retail game, and despite being a lower-budget indie game, it was stunning. Like Jessica Alba and Idle Hands stunning. A Plague Tale is to stealth action puzzle games what Hellblade was to hack and slash action puzzle games. The stealth mechanics are simple and not overly challenging, but the great story, engaging characters, stunning presentation, and reasonable price make it an experience worth paying attention to. That all being said, if you're looking for an engaging stealth game where you can really use your brain and exploit the enemy AI in ways that will make you want to high-five yourself after a masterpiece of a plan finally comes together, this is not the game you're looking for. Play Metal Gear Solid 5 or Dishonored or even Sekiro. Actually, don't play Sekiro if you want that. Play Sekiro if you want to cut a giant ape's head off with a katana, because it'll definitely stay dead if you do that. What was I talking about again? Yes, Plague Tale is a very simple stealth game, both in difficulty and complexity, but as long as you know what you're going into, both of these things will end up working out in the game's favor. This isn't meant to be a live service, new game triple plus, grind for 200 hours to get the platinum trophy kind of game. It's the gaming equivalent of a TV season that you're intended to binge. It's rather short, with my playthrough taking about 10 hours, but that feels like the right length for the story being told, and while the gameplay was substantial enough that I did feel like I needed to use my brain, it was never so challenging that I hit a wall which would pull me out of the story. The pace of both the narrative and the gameplay felt just about right to me, a subjective observation for sure, but one that I'm confident most will come away agreeing with. Part of what makes this game so engaging is the fantastic performances. The French accents on the English audio track are much appreciated, as I was kind of worried that this game would pull an Assassin's Creed Unity and have all the quote-unquote French people in the game speak with British accents.
Arno? Who are you talking to?
No one, monsieur.
You'll be happy to learn I persuaded Olivier to leave off calling the Marshalsea. Again.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
What is this? The 6th time? The 7th? Perhaps a new hobby might be better for your health.
Well, I find playing cards affords many opportunities for fresh air and exercise.
What is this book about?
It's the story of a little boy who's going to get a lot better now.
Right, I'm starving. Anyone else?
Me?
Come and eat then. I think we deserve it.
Simple touches like an inflection of the language which is meant to be heard do a lot for the immersion, and even coming fresh off of 3 games in a row with Japanese audio, I never felt the need to switch to the French track. That being said, I could see going through the game a second time with the French audio and English subtitles providing a fresh experience. So I'm sure you're asking, does MarcTheCyborg recommend a Plague Tale Innocence? Similar to the reason why I maybe made my Yakuza 0 video in the first place, the answer is a firm maybe. If you enjoy narrative games and don't mind a finite adventure which you experience like a movie or a novel, then yes. Although it may be worth noting that even at the modest price, the game is still not might as well buy it cheap. In Canada it's $60, which is $20 less than our new game MSRP, but that's still a fairly substantial amount of money, so it may still be worth waiting for a sale. At $30, I'd call this game an absolute must-buy. However, I did not regret paying the game's asking price. The writing, performances, presentation, and story more than justified the price of admission to me, and if you enjoy these narrative experience games, I'm sure it will for you as well. But if you're at all hesitant, wait for a sale on your platform of choice and discover the mysteries of the macula. What? What the fuck? What the fuck?